She sent her 3 brothers to beat him half to death. She stood in the driveway and watched. What she didn't know, he owned the house, and his phone, still on the ground, was recording everything.
Have you ever been so kind to someone, so patient, so consistent, so steady, that they started to mistake your gentleness for weakness? Have you ever watched someone you loved turn into a person you barely recognized? And still you stayed, still you gave, still you built, and then one night, it all exploded. Not because you failed them, but because they finally showed you who they really were.
This is the story of Callan Dray, a man who never raised his voice once in 3 years. A man who built in silence while she spent in public. A man who visited a lawyer before he ever needed one. And the night they broke his jaw, they also sealed their fate. Stay with me, because what happens in the next 30 minutes will make you rethink every quiet person you've ever underestimated. Newport Beach, California. The kind of city where the ocean breeze smells like money and everyone drives something they can't fully afford. The houses are wide, the lawns are perfect, and the silence between neighbors is polite. The way silence always is when people have too much to lose. Callan Dray did not look like a man who had much. 31 years old, medium height, the kind of face that forgot to be memorable. He drove a silver Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard vent, wore the same 3 polo shirts in rotation, and packed his own lunch in a blue cooler every single morning. His neighbors called him quiet. His co-workers called him reliable. His girlfriend's family called him soft. Her name was Desiree Alcott. 29, long neck, short temper, the daughter of Reginald Alcott, a man who owned 3 dry cleaning franchises in Orange County, and believed that a woman's husband was a direct reflection of her worth. And Callan Dray, with his Civic and his cooler, did not reflect well. But here's what nobody saw, because Callan wasn't the type to show it. He woke up at 5:12 a.m. every morning, not 5:15, not 5 o'clock. 5:12 because that was the exact moment the light came through his east window and hit the wall the right way, and it reminded him of something his late mother once told him. His mother said, "Baby, the people who build in the dark don't need applause. They just need time." Callan had time, and he used every single minute of it. By day, he worked as a mid-level project coordinator at a logistics firm called Parcel West in Irvine. It wasn't glamorous. He sat in a cubicle next to a man named Aldous, who ate sardines at his desk every Tuesday, and a woman named Preet who laughed too loud at her own jokes. Callan liked them both. By night, he was doing something else entirely. He had a side business, a small freight brokerage he'd built from a laptop and a Google Voice number over 2 years. No investor, no co-founder, no announcement on LinkedIn with 14 fire emojis. Just spreadsheets, carrier calls, and silence. In his second year, that side business made $214,000. He told no one. And then there was Desiree. They met at a charity dinner in Laguna Hills. She was laughing at something her cousin said. Callan was standing by the shrimp cocktail, trying to figure out if it was rude to take 4. It is. He took 3. She walked over because she needed a phone charger. He had one. That was it. That was the whole love story's beginning, a 32% battery and a man who planned ahead. 3 months in, she moved into his house. The house he'd bought at 28 with a down payment he'd saved over 4 years while living on instant noodles and discounted rotisserie chicken. The house was small, 1,400 square feet, 1 spare bedroom he used as an office, a kitchen that smelled like cedar because of the cutting board his mother left him, a back porch that looked out onto a narrow canal. It was his, all his. Every tile, every doorknob, every mortgage payment, made 2 days early, every single month. Desiree liked the house well enough. She redecorated the living room twice. She bought throw pillows that cost more than Callan's first car payment. She put a succulent on every windowsill and called it creating energy. Callan said nothing. He paid for the throw pillows. He watered the succulents. He was building something, and he needed peace to build it. The first year was good. Not perfect, but the real kind of good. The kind where you argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash and then laugh about it 20 minutes later. where she steals the blanket and you let her because her face in the morning makes it worth it. Callan cooked on Sundays. Desiree handled the grocery runs and always forgot the one thing he actually needed. He'd tease her. She'd roll her eyes. It was ordinary. It was theirs. Then her father started coming around. Reginald Alcott, 62, a man built like a refrigerator and twice as cold. He wore linen shirts and drove a Lexus and had the handshake of a man who wanted you to know exactly where you stood. He never disrespected Callan directly. He was too smart for that. He just asked questions. "You still at that logistics company, Callan?" "No promotion yet." "That's a long time in one place, son." "Des tells me you drive a Civic. Nothing wrong with that. My first car was a Civic, 1987. Small cuts, delivered with a smile. Reginald was an expert at that. And slowly, the way rust spreads under paint, Desiree started looking at Callan differently. It started with tone. She stopped calling him Cal and started using his full name when she was irritated, which became more often. It graduated to comparisons. Her cousin Beaumont had just leased a Range Rover. Her old college friend Waverley's husband had just been promoted to VP. Then it became demands wrapped in suggestions. "You should talk to Daddy about getting into real estate. You'd probably do better than whatever you're doing now. I think you should dress better. People judge, Callan. Newport Beach is not the place to look like you just came from a Home Depot. Why won't you tell people about your business? Are you embarrassed by it? Because honestly, I'm starting to understand why." Callan listened. He always listened. He nodded. He breathed slowly. He went to bed. And at 5:12 a.m., he woke up and kept building. But here's the thing about quiet men. They notice everything. They just don't announce it. Callan noticed the shift in her voice. He noticed the way she positioned herself in front of her father, like she was auditioning for a role that required him to be the problem. He also noticed something else. In 14 months of living together, Desiree had never once asked him about his dreams. Not one time. He had asked about hers constantly. She wanted to open an event planning business. He had researched startup costs, LLC registration in California, potential vendor contacts. He'd put together a small business plan she never read. She had never asked him what kept him awake at night, what he was building toward, what the freight brokerage was becoming. She just wanted it to produce more, faster, louder. Like a machine she had invested in and expected returns from. March, 8 months before everything collapsed. Callan drove 40 minutes north to a law firm on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. Not a fancy firm, not a glass tower with a waterfall in the lobby. A 4-story building with tan carpet and a receptionist named Dot who offered him terrible coffee from a machine that had clearly seen better decades. He had made the appointment 3 weeks earlier. He told no one. The lawyer's name was Fenwick Okafor, 50-something, Nigerian-American, the kind of man whose silence in the room cost $200 an hour, and who gave you your money's worth. What are we protecting? Everything, the house, the business, any future assets. If anything ever goes sideways, I want the architecture already built. You expecting something to go sideways? I'm expecting to be prepared in case it does. Fenwick had liked that answer. He opened a folder. They talked for 2 hours. By the end of it, every asset Callan owned, the house, the brokerage entity, the investment account he'd been quietly feeding for 3 years, was wrapped inside a legal structure that Desiree Alcott had no claim to. They hadn't discussed marriage. They weren't engaged. But Callan had seen enough from the last 8 months to know. When a person starts treating your life like a resource, you protect the resource. He drove back down to Newport Beach on the 405, windows down, radio off. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even sad. He was just ready. Now let me pause here because this is the part most people miss. People always ask, why didn't he just leave? And I want you to sit with that question. Because the real answer is this. He loved her. Not blindly, not stupidly, but genuinely. He had seen who she was before her father's voice got inside her head. He was giving the real Desiree time to show back up. He was also making absolutely certain that if she didn't, He would survive her leaving. Two things can be true. By August, Callan's freight brokerage had crossed $380,000 in annual revenue. He hired a part-time logistics coordinator named Juno, 26, meticulous, operated entirely on cold brew and spreadsheet formulas. She worked remote from Tempe, Arizona. She never met Desiree. She didn't need to. The business was growing, and Callan was growing with it, and Desiree, who didn't know the numbers, saw none of it. What she saw was a man who still drove a Civic, still packed a blue cooler, and still came home at 6:45 every evening, smelling like a man who wanted nothing from the world. She started bringing her brother Travel around. Then Kobe. Then the youngest one, Soren. 3 brothers, big, loud, the kind of men who took up space like it was a competitive sport. They'd come over on weekends, eat Callan's food, critique his furniture, make jokes Callan didn't laugh at, stare at him the way men stare when they want you to know they could. Travel was the oldest, 36, biceps like something a sculptor might apologize for. A gold chain that never left his neck. He called Callan bro in a way that meant the exact opposite. Bro, no offense, but why y'all still living in this little box? Des deserves better than this. She's free to leave anytime she wants. Travel had not liked that answer. Kobe was the second one, 33, quieter than Travel but sneakier. He would say something cutting and then look at his phone like he hadn't just said it. You know what I respect, Callan? Ambition. It's a rare thing in a man. Long pause. Rare. Soren was 28, the youngest. He didn't say much. He just watched Callan with flat, patient eyes, the way a man watches something he's already decided about. Callan noticed all of it, filed every moment away. And he kept building. November 14th. It was a Thursday, cold for Southern California, 54 degrees, which locals treated like a blizzard. The canal behind the house was still. The street was quiet, the kind of night that has no business being violent. Callan had gotten home at 6:45 like always. He made pasta, the garlic and olive oil kind, simple, the kind his mother taught him. He'd set 2 places at the table. Desiree came in at 7:30. She'd been at her father's house. He could tell by the way she walked. Her chin was up, her jaw was set, and her eyes had that particular sheen that meant Reginald Alcott had been talking. Daddy thinks we should put the house up as collateral. Get a business loan. Start something real. The house isn't collateral, and it's not yours to offer. Silence, the kind that expands. Excuse me? I'm not putting my house on the line for a business idea your father cooked up over a golf game. That's not happening. Your house, right, because everything's yours, isn't it? I'm just a guest here. Is that it? You said it, not me. She went to the bedroom. The door didn't slam. It closed with that precise, controlled click that is somehow worse than slamming. Callan ate his pasta alone. He washed both plates, even hers. Force of habit. Then he sat on the back porch and watched the canal and thought about nothing in particular. His phone was on the patio table, screen down. At 9:47 p.m., he picked it up to check on a carrier invoice. He didn't notice the voice memo app he'd accidentally opened when he sat down. It was recording. The front door opened at 10:11 p.m. Not Desiree. Travel, Kobe, Soren. They came through the door she had unlocked for them. He understood that part immediately. The way they moved, no hesitation, like they had instructions. Travel got to him first. The porch chair went over, the canal lights blurred. Callan felt the railing against his back, and then the planks under his cheek, and the sound in his ears went strange and underwater thick. He didn't fight back. Not because he couldn't, but because something in him went very still and very clear. The way things get when your body understands something your brain is still catching up to. He heard her voice from the doorway. Desiree. Standing in the light from the kitchen, arms crossed, expression flat. Not crying. Not horrified. Watching. Maybe pain will make you useful. That was all she said. That was everything. The phone on the table caught all of it. The thuds, the grunts, her brother's voices, the drag of furniture. And then her voice, clear as a deposition, cold as a verdict. 7 words. 7 words that would later be played in a lawyer's office in front of 3 people who had no idea what they'd handed him. The brothers left. The house went quiet. Callan lay on his back porch for a long time. His left eye was swelling shut, his lip was split. 2 ribs, he'd find out later, were cracked. He looked up at the California sky. No stars tonight, just orange-grey cloud cover. He thought about his mother. He thought about Fenwick Okafor's calm voice in that tan-carpeted office. He thought about the voice memo still running on his phone. And very slowly, through the blood and the silence, something shifted in him. Not rage. Not grief. Decision. The next morning, a neighbor found him. Her name was Theodora Baines, 68, retired school librarian. She walked her dog Biscuit at 7 a.m. every single morning without fail, and she had the observational instincts of a woman who had spent 32 years watching children lie about their homework. She saw the chair overturned. She saw Callan on the porch. She called 911 before she finished crossing the lawn. The clinic in Costa Mesa was clean and fast. The nurse who wrapped his ribs was named Ambrose, young, careful, the kind of quiet that felt like a gift. He didn't ask too many questions. He taped the ribs, iced the eye, put 3 stitches in the lip. "You want to talk to anyone? We have a social worker on call." "I'm good, I just need a phone charger." Ambrose had looked at him for a long moment, then plugged in the charger. The call came at 11:43 a.m. Unknown number. He almost let it go. Then something made him answer. "Mr. Dre, this is the office of Fenwick Okafor. We've been trying to reach you." 40 minutes later, he was in a rideshare heading north on the 405, taped ribs, swollen eye, blue hospital bracelet still on his wrist. Sitting straighter than he had in months. Fenwick Okafor's office. Same tan carpet, same terrible coffee machine. Dot at the front desk said nothing about his face, which he appreciated more than he could say. They sat across from each other. Callan set his phone on the desk. He pressed play. Fenwick listened to all 4 minutes and 22 seconds without moving. When it was over, he folded his hands on the table. "You know what you have here?" "I know. This is assault. This is conspiracy. This is her on record, watching it happen and speaking." "I know. What do you want to do?" Callan was quiet for a long moment. He had listened to that recording 3 times already that morning. He had rewound her voice twice, that flat, cold 7-word sentence. And each time he heard it, something that had been soft in him, hopeful, willing to wait, quietly hardened into something else. Something unbreakable. He looked at Fenwick Okafor. "Proceed." 1 word. Clean, final, devastating. Fenwick opened a drawer, slid a folder across the desk. Inside, the property filing, the business ownership documentation, the protective legal structure they'd built 8 months ago in this same room. Everything was already in Callan's name. She had no claim. Not one. Callan signed the final authorization on page 7. His handwriting was steady. While Callan was signing that final authorization in Fenwick Okafor's office, Desiree Alcott was pacing the kitchen of a house she had mentally already claimed. She had rearranged the throw pillows 3 times that morning, a nervous habit she would never admit to. She had also called her father twice and her brother Travel once, and all 3 conversations had ended the same way, with her feeling righteous and them confirming it. She was not worried. That is the important part. She was not worried. Because people who believe they hold all the power never are. Her plan was simple. Callan would come back, bruised, quiet, reset. She would offer something small. Maybe soften her tone for a week. Maybe let him win a minor argument about the grocery list. He would absorb it the way he always absorbed things, and life would continue on her terms. It was a good plan. It would have worked on a different man. At 2:17 p.m., she got a call from a number she did not recognize. She almost let it go to voicemail. Then she picked up, because she was already agitated, and agitated people always pick up unknown numbers, hoping it is something they can use. "Ms. Alcott, my name is Fenwick Okafor. I represent Mr. Callan Dre." I am calling as a professional courtesy to inform you that a formal notice will be delivered to your current address this afternoon. Please ensure someone is present to receive it. She pulled the phone from her ear, stared at it. Put it back. I'm sorry, who are you? The attorney handling Mr. Dre's affairs. The notice will arrive between 3 and 4 o'clock. Have a good afternoon, Miss Alcott. The line went dead. Desiree stood in the kitchen for a full 30 seconds, not moving. Then she called Trevel. Relax. He's bluffing. What's he going to do? Call the cops? He doesn't have the nerve. She exhaled, went back to pacing. The succulents on the windowsills were very still. 3:44 p.m. 2 vehicles parked in front of the house on the quiet Newport Beach street. One was a grey sedan. One was a white SUV with the name of a property management firm printed on the side in small professional font. 3 people got out. A woman in a dark blazer carrying a folder, a man with a clipboard, and a third person, younger with a camera bag, who stood by the gate and said nothing. Desiree opened the door before they knocked. She had been watching from the front window for 20 minutes. Who are you? Good afternoon. My name is Celestine Hargrove. I am with the law office of Fenwick Okafor, acting on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Callan Dre. Are you Miss Desiree Alcott? Yes, and? I have formal documentation for you. May we come in? No, you may not. That is your right. We can conduct this at the door. Celestine opened the folder. Her voice was the temperature of a February morning. Not cruel, just cold and clear. This is a formal notice of termination of occupancy. The property at this address is owned solely by Mr. Callan Dre. You have no tenancy agreement, no legal ownership, and no recorded interest in this property. You have 72 hours to remove your personal belongings. After that period, a formal eviction process will begin. Silence. The kind that has weight. This is my home. I live here. You cannot do this. I understand this is difficult. The documentation confirms otherwise. She extended the folder. Desiree did not take it. Celestine set it gently on the doorstep. There is one additional item. She produced a small device. Pressed play. And the voice that filled the afternoon air of that quiet Newport Beach street was not Celestine Hargrove's. It was Desiree Alcott's. Maybe pain will make you useful. 7 words. Playing in the open air, flat and unapologetic, in a voice Desiree recognized as absolutely unmistakably her own. Before those 7 words, the sounds from the back porch, furniture, thuds, her brother's voices, identifiable and clear. The recording was 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Celestine let it play for 45 seconds. Then she stopped it. This recording has been submitted to the Newport Beach Police Department as part of a formal assault report filed this morning. 3 individuals have been named. Warrants are pending. You may wish to contact an attorney. Celestine Hargrove picked up the folder from the doorstep, replaced it on top of the documentation she had already left, straightened her blazer, and walked back to the grey sedan. The man with the clipboard followed. The third person with the camera bag had been documenting the property exterior the entire time. He got back in the SUV without a word. They drove away. Desiree stood in the doorway for a very long time. The succulents she had arranged on the windowsills were still there. Everything else she thought she owned was already gone. She called Trevel first. He arrived in 19 minutes with Kobe right behind him. Soren came last, pulling up in a black pickup that he parked 2 wheels up on the curb the way men do when they are trying to look unbothered. They stood in Callan's living room, surrounded by her throw pillows and her succulents and everything she had layered on top of another person's life, and Desiree played them the recording on her phone. Trevel's face changed 3 times in 45 seconds. First, recognition. That was his voice on the tape. He knew it immediately. Second, calculation. He was running numbers. What had been submitted, who had heard it, how far it had already traveled. Third, something he would not name, but that sat behind his eyes the way guilt sits when it has no other room to go. Kobe said nothing for a full minute. He was looking at his phone. not reading anything, just staring at the screen, the way people do when they need their face to be pointed somewhere that is not the person they need to look at. Soren was the one who broke it. The youngest, the quiet one, the one who had watched Callan for 3 months with those flat, patient eyes. He looked at Desiree. You said he was lying. Just that. No anger, no volume, 4 words that landed like a door closing. Soren. You told us he had been taking money from you. You told us he disrespected you in your own home. You said he put his hands on you. The room was very quiet. None of that is on this tape, Des. Trevel turned away. He walked to the window and looked out at the canal and put one hand on the back of his neck, the way a man does when a decision he made with his body is now being audited by his brain. Kobe set his phone face down on the coffee table. Desiree opened her mouth, then closed it, because there was nothing to say that the recording had not already answered. Now, let me stop here for a second, because this is the part of the story where the easy thing to do is to enjoy the collapse. And I understand that. When you have watched someone treated the way Callan was treated, you want the moment of reckoning to be as large as possible. But here is what I want you to notice. The person who cracked the room was not a lawyer, not an official, not Callan. It was Soren, the brother, the one who had been used as a weapon by someone he trusted completely. When betrayal unravels, it does not just cost the person who built it. It costs everyone they pulled in with them. Remember that. What Desiree had not been told, what no one in her family knew, was the folder inside the folder. The one that was not about the house. 4 months before everything fell apart, Callan had done something he had never mentioned to anyone. He had submitted a university application on Desiree's behalf. She had told him once, early in their first year, in the kind of late-night honesty that people only reach when the room is dark and the walls are down, that she had always wanted to study interior design formally. Not just redecorate, actually study it, build a portfolio, make something real of the instinct she had always had for space and texture and light. She said it like a confession, like she was ashamed of wanting it. Callan had written it down in a notes app at 12:34 a.m. that same night. He had not told her. He had just started working on it. He researched the interior design program at the Laguna College of Art and Design. He gathered her work history, her photographs. She had hundreds of them on her phone, rooms she had styled for fun, spaces she had rearranged and shot and never shown anyone. And he had compiled them quietly into a portfolio document over 6 weeks. He submitted the application in September under her name. The acceptance letter came in October. He had it. The admission letter, the enrollment package, the first semester fee, already prepared in a separate account he had set aside specifically for this, 12 months of patient contributions. He had planned to give it to her at Christmas. A box, a card, the only real thing he had ever wanted to hand her. Not the house, not the money, not any of it. The dream she said like an apology. November 14th happened instead. Callan came back to Newport Beach on a Saturday morning. Not to the house, not yet. To the street 2 blocks north of it, where there was a small park with a bench that faced the water. He sat there for a while. His ribs were still taped. His eye had gone from purple to a greenish yellow, the way bruises do when they are working their way out. He had his blue cooler with him. He had packed his own lunch. Some things do not change. He was on the bench maybe 40 minutes when he heard footsteps on the path behind him. He did not need to turn around. He knew the sound of those shoes. Desiree had been staying with her cousin since the officials came. She had not eaten much. She had not slept the way sleep is supposed to work. She had rehearsed 100 versions of what she would say if she saw him, and every single version started with some form of the word sorry, and every single version had dissolved by morning, because sorry requires an accounting she had not yet done for herself. But she had seen his car, the silver Civic, parked 2 blocks away, and her feet had walked here before her brain finished the argument. She stopped a few feet from the bench. He still had not turned around. Callan. He looked at the water. I need you to hear me. I'm listening. I didn't know it would go that far. I swear to you, I didn't think they would. You stood in the doorway, Desiree. You watched, and you spoke. She moved around the bench so she was in front of him. He looked up at her face. He had not seen it since that night. She looked small in a way she never had before. Not in size, in something else. I know what I did, and I can't explain it. I don't even understand it myself. Callan, please, I have nowhere. Stop. Not loud, not hard. Just stop. He reached into the blue cooler. He pulled out a sealed envelope. He held it out to her. She stared at it. What is this? Open it. She did. Her hands were shaking by the second page. The acceptance letter, the enrollment package. Her name, printed cleanly at the top of the LCAD Interior Design Program welcome document. The portfolio he had built from her photographs. She read it twice. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. You did this? Semester fees are covered, through May. After that, that's your road. But the door is open. I made sure it was open. Why? After everything Because I kept every promise I made. He looked at her steadily. I had your admission ready, your fees prepared. I built this for you the same way I build everything, quietly, without announcing it. You didn't lose this because I failed you, Desiree. He paused. You lost it because you chose to destroy what you already had. She was crying now. The kind of crying that does not care about audience or dignity. The salt and snot kind that only comes when a person finally sees the full size of something they cannot undo. Callan watched her for a moment. He did not look away. He did not look cold. He looked like a man who had felt this grief already, privately, and was now watching someone else arrive at the beginning of theirs. He stood, picked up the blue cooler. Turned toward the path. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Please. Don't you feel anything? He stopped. Did not turn around. I felt everything, Desiree. That's why I'm walking. He walked. The canal caught the morning light. The water moved the way water moves, without asking for permission, without explaining itself, just steady and forward and completely indifferent to what it leaves behind. The freight brokerage crossed $500,000 in its third year. Callan hired 2 more people, moved the operation into a small office in Irvine. He still packed the blue cooler every morning. His colleague Aldous still ate sardines on Tuesdays. Preet still laughed too loud. Callan still liked them both. He bought a new house, bigger than the last one, still not loud about it. He got a dog, a large, slow-moving basset hound he named Inventory because he had the sense of humor of a man who ran a freight brokerage and did not care if you found it funny. Inventory the dog was, by all accounts, a disaster. He knocked over water glasses, he sat on Callan's laptop. He ate 1 shoe from every pair Callan owned without ever touching the second one. Callan loved him unreasonably. His neighbor Theodora Baines from the old street sent him a card. It said, "You were always the best one on that block. Do not let anyone tell you different." There was a drawing of a dog on the card. She had added it in pen. Callan put it on his refrigerator. Travel and Kobe faced assault charges. Their attorney negotiated. They got 18 months probation, community service, and a record that would follow them in ways they were only beginning to understand. Soren, who the recording showed had arrived late, whose voice appeared only once and only to ask what was happening, was not charged. He called Callan once from a number Callan did not recognize. I did not know the truth of it. I want you to know that. I believe you. Is there anything? No, but take care of yourself, Soren. That family needs someone who asks questions before they walk through a door. He hung up. He meant it kindly. Reginald Alcott called once. He did not leave a message. Callan did not call back. Some silences are a full sentence. Desiree enrolled at Laguna College of Art and Design in January. She did not contact Callan. That was the right call. It was the first right call she had made in a long time, and somewhere, without knowing it, she was already beginning to rebuild. Fenwick Okafor sent Callan a bottle of good scotch at Christmas, with a card that read, The prepared man is never surprised. It was the most expensive thing anyone had given him that year, and he shared it with Juno, Aldous, and Preet at the office holiday gathering. They did not know why they were drinking it. They drank it anyway. It was very good scotch. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. They confuse patience for permission. They see a man who does not raise his voice and decide he has nothing to say. Callan Dre did not raise his voice once in 3 years. He did not need to. He had receipts. And when the time came, when the room was quiet and the people who had underestimated him were standing in the wreckage of their own assumptions, he did not gloat. He did not perform. He just walked. Forward, steady, the way a man walks when he has nothing left to prove and everything left to build. The quiet man always shows his receipts. When he is ready.